welcome again to Beyond the Bias. It's the first one we've had in a while, but we're back with you, Mark, the CEO of Bowls New Zealand, for just an update on bits and pieces that have been going around the place.
Yes, it is the first one for a while, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah, I've blinked and months have
gone by.
Yeah.
So, look, it's an opportunity, I think, for me, as I'm popping around the country at the moment, just to do this audio and give a bit of an update. We are using technology this time round, hopefully. We'll see how it goes.
Well,
we've got video as well.
Yeah. People will find out pretty quickly if you're able just to listen to this and don't have a video. It's gone horrendously wrong. But,
do you reckon we should maybe recut this opening segment with and without?
Maybe. We'll see.
We won't.
We'll see how it goes. It seems like a lot of effort, to be fair.
All right, let's. We could ramble for a while, so I guess, it's that opportunity for me to give that update through this session as well as inviting people to the Centre Regional Club meetings. A week ago, we visited South Canterbury, Marlborough and Nelson on the last 2 weeks. We had good sessions, good turnouts, actually. I think just about every club was at each session, which was terrific. The focus of those sessions has been the constitutions, but at the same time, it's nice to also give that update of what's happening nationally with our sport and community.
So the centre visits, was that something when you took your role at Bowls New Zealand that you started, or did we do it before? It just seems like it's been something that's gone for a while.
Oh, it's been going for a while. It feels a while. No, it's always been there. I think the difference now is that I'd like to think it's more of a general chat about it. It's not a lecture. So it's I guess the format maybe have changed a little bit, but the purpose is still there, which is to make sure that the community, for those that are keen, for those that are interested, that they're given information about what's happening.
And you said you're talking about constitutions a lot, which must be exciting at the centre visits. But there is that big change, isn't there, with the Incorporated Societies Act? Is there like a real quick sort of cheat sheet you can give viewers and listeners to what they should be doing with the constitutions?
Yeah, I think the cheat sheet is Martin McKenzie at bowlsnewzealand.co.nz. So if you need a hand with constitutions, then Martin's the assistant. Also assisted, though, by Kevin Smith in the South Island and Rob Davis in the North Island. We've done a lot of work in this constitution space. We're ready as a sport. We now have a template constitution for clubs, including in that as the regulations. We have a template constitution for centres, and we'll be working on the Bowls New Zealand one soon. We took a lot of pride recently in with Bowls Henderson or Henderson Bowls Bowling Club, whereby they adopted our template constitution. They pretty much just changed XYZ Bowling Club to Henderson Bowls. I think they might have made a couple of minor adjustments as well. Submitted that to the Incorporated Society on Monday, the 19th of April. By close of business Monday, the 19th of April, they had a new certificate of incorporation.
Oh, cool.
So it was all adopted. It blew us away, the speed, but it was also a sigh of relief that our constitution works. We're trumpeting that template around the country. Make it easy on yourself, adopt the template, but make the necessary adjustments to it. So we pick out 2 or 3 big areas. You need to consider your wind-up clauses, whether, if the club was to wind up, what happens. You need to look at your membership categories and who has voting rights and who doesn't, and the executive board or the committee or whatever you call the leadership of the club, who's on it, what their positions are as well. So those are the major things that you would change from the template constitution.
Good. It sounds like it's all sort of going positively. Nothing to be frightened of with this.
Nothing to be frightened of. We use the words "don't panic." We have till March of 26, but we would like to see clubs really engage in this process in the next 12 months. We promote, and it worked really well for Henderson Bowls, we promote using a special general meeting, so an SGM, to get the constitution through as opposed to the AGM. For a lot of clubs and centres, the AGM becomes, there's a whole lot of other issues that need to be dealt with. The SGM, if it's just for the Constitution, which would be for, it can be pretty painless.
Yeah.
And you know, it was interesting with Martin working with Bowls Henderson, the guys out there, and the approach that they took was that they ran the AGM on a club day.
The special general meeting.
Yeah.
The
SGM. Sorry.
Yeah, we'll just make sure we're not confusing people.
Well, and you're listening to me as well. We ran the SGM on a Saturday club day during the lunch break.
Yeah.
And I think it took 10 minutes.
Yeah.
And whilst they'd done the prep for it, that was a really good outcome, I think, for the club and everybody.
For sure. Well, that sounds like a positive thing. And there's plenty of centre visits to come. So listeners or viewers, if you're keen to go and just have a look, and there'll be a centre visit near you soon, I'm sure.
Yeah. Depending on how quickly you get this posted, we are in Wellington on Monday night. 6 o'clock at 9i or 6:30 at 9i. Then we're Kapiti and the Wairarapa on the Tuesday. And then from then on, we just keep working our way around the country right up until about August. We're purposely staging this where we're sending out the template constitutions and all the related paperwork. We send it to all the clubs in the region about a week prior to our presentation, as opposed to just sending this out to all 465 bowling clubs without any sort of, talking to it.
Yeah.
So we're working our way region by region, and if you can be patient as a club until we get to your region, that would be much appreciated. If you do have a dire sense of urgency on this, then feel free to contact Martin at Bowls New Zealand.
Yeah, which is his email address. The other big piece of work, Mark, that's been going on is the census, isn't it? So every year we do a Bowls New Zealand census where all the clubs fill in some fields with their membership numbers. What do you have to report on that?
It's completed.
That's good.
It's always a mission, a little bit of a mission for us as we work our way through club by club, getting information. But it's really important because it promotes or it talks to the state of the game in the country. And we have now data going back to 2010 for every single club. Therefore, we've got data for every single centre and data for Bowls New Zealand. And it measures full playing membership, casual participation, number of youth playing in our game, number of first years, and now we've got a new category called Twilight Bowls as well. So we've got those measurements in place. And, for all the work that our clubs are doing out there in the community, we need to have some sort of evidence to say that this is going well or this isn't going well. So, big body of work. And as of yesterday, we got the final club in. So we now have
we won't say what club it was, though, will we?
We won't. Yeah. No, we won't. So we've got that last one in. I'm just trying to think of the region, actually. Now that I think about it. It may have been Wellington.
Wellington. Okay. North Island.
Yeah. We got the final club in, and we now have a complete census, which means that we can report numbers, which, as I said, is really important to the state of the game and how we're going.
So what are the early indications? Like, I know it's been easy in the last few years for people to talk around at a bar arena and talk doom and gloom about the membership numbers, and we look back to the halcyon days of the 80s and 90s and go, we had thousands and thousands of people and it's all fallen apart. What is it? How are we looking?
Yeah. Well, this is an easy conversation. It's been reasonably easy for the last 2 or 3 or 4 years, actually, because our numbers are on the rise. And I think that doom and gloom bar arena conversation is it's a lot less now than it used to be, for sure, because clubs are seeing the benefit now of that Twilight Bowls League. And we've got clubs now that have more people playing on their Thursday or Wednesday night Twilight Bowls League than playing Saturday, Sundays. So that the nature of the club is changing a little bit, but it's also there's a positiveness to it because they can see all these new people coming along and they're enjoying their bowls and they're having a beer and partaking at the bar and that sort of stuff. So numbers have been really good, and I'll throw numbers out there. I mean, it's a pity we can't, in some respects, put up a little graph right now.
Well, just wait and see, Mark. Maybe I'll be able to manage that if I remember.
One day with technology. So our playing membership, so this is what I kind of describe it as our Saturday, Sunday, Tuesday afternoon roll-up for veterans type stuff. That playing membership grew again, just by a small margin though. So 2.0% is the number I've got in front of me, which is still a healthy return when you can compare us with a lot of other sports in the community. For our playing membership, that just to have that, it's running along at the same line, but it's actually there's a little incline and has been for the last 3 to 4 years now. So we're continuing to build 1%, 2%, 3% every year in that playing membership. That's really cool, and that's and a good track of that is what's happening with our first year playing membership.
Yeah.
So this year we had 1,800. Where's my number? Somewhere in there. 1,855 new first year members. That compared with 1,761 last year. And prior to that, you'd have to go all the way back to 2010 to find a number over 1,500.
Brilliant.
So, 3 years ago was sitting at 1,400 basically, for the 3 prior to that. So that first year is happening. And I think what we're now starting to see is the benefits of that Twilight Bowls, that business house.
I was going to say there has to be a connection there, right? When you have people playing your Wednesday, Thursday nights for a few years, which has been happening, surely that's when they go, maybe I'll have it a go on a Saturday playing a club championship.
Yeah, and they just have to be tapped on the shoulder and go, you're really good, or one of the 2 or 3 of you come along and do our junior singles or something like that, or junior peers. And that's starting to happen, and it doesn't happen at a rapid rate of knots, because for a lot of people, playing on the Thursday night is all the bowls they want. They don't want to play Saturday, Sunday. They've got jobs, they've got young families, etc., that have taken their commitment away. But if we've got this right, there'll be a point in their life whereby they're enjoying their bowls that they will convert across. So really good. So when you look at first year membership, and then you connect that back to the playing membership, that little bit of growth, we're seeing that correlation. The big number within this conversation, this particular conversation, is the Twilight numbers. So 3 to 4 years ago, around about 4,500 people playing Business House Twilight Bowls. That number was 15,000. Again, I have to get my glasses out. 15,845. So it's tripled.
Yeah.
Which is really cool number for us. And when you think there's now 15,800 playing Business House Twilight Bowls, and we have 26,000 who are full playing or playing bowls, you get a sense of actually how big this is for a number of clubs, those numbers are, and how important it is to our future and where our growth is. So that growth is, over the last 4 years, 3 to 4 years, has tripled. Whereas our playing membership has pretty much run along at a nice
plateau.
Plateau, yeah.
And like the other thing with the clubs, we haven't really seen I think if we were to graph out our club numbers, it was a pretty steep decline for a while, but that seems to have leveled out as well.
Yeah, it has. So we've dropped. The playing membership number of clubs, etc., have dropped, but in the last 4 to 5 years, very much plateaued. But what's happened is that we've had growth in other areas. So the Twilight number is a phenomenal number for our sport, and those clubs that are doing it are really reaping the rewards, I'm sure. In saying that, it's quite a burden on the volunteer structure within the clubs, and we need to be cognizant of that. As is when we're going to move into the casual playing numbers as well.
Yep, lovely segue.
Those numbers are the corporate functions, the Christmas functions.
I was just going to say, so explain what the difference is between Twilight Bowls League numbers, 15,000, and casual playing numbers.
So the casual playing is that one-off experience. Yeah. Pretty much. I mean, you might get someone come back 2 or 3 times, whereas the Twilight experiences is the 6 to 8 weeks of bowls through the summer.
In a league, like you would for like Tempin Bowls, you go play a league sort of situation.
Exactly right. Sometimes it's pre-Christmas and post-Christmas, so you might double up in that space. And then obviously we've got our full playing, which is those that, want to play the club champs, etc.
Yeah.
So that casual is that one-off type experience. And 120... We need a better printer, don't we? Or I need a better eyesight. 123,000.
That's unbelievable.
It's the most it's ever been. in the history of our sport, most. We just topped 100 pre-COVID, the year before COVID. Now we're 123,000. And these are legitimately people that have a bowls experience. So they're down at the bowling club, and it might be their corporate function or whatever the concept is, but they're actually enjoying bowls and enjoying the bowling club. So it's almost, if you think about it as a staged introduction to bowls, that sort of corporate thing is the first experience, potentially for most. Then the Twilight League is the second experience, and then they're within that membership of the club.
It feels like it's reflective of clubs now, or more clubs now going, there's actually a moneymaker for our club, as we've had entries for. If you go, well, if we run a business house or corporate events, it's a way of sort of just rotating things through the club and a really good first experience.
Yeah, and I think it is the money making, and that's important for our clubs, but it's that first experience that people enjoy. And it's also, there's a little bit of pride that we all take, I think, in showing off our club and our sport to non-bowlers. And it's a good one to do because, what's the line about our for our sport is that we're the cheapest and best Christmas function because the bar prices are cheap. You can, do your own food almost. And importantly, you can have men playing women, young playing old.
The participation, right? Yeah. It's just there. Yeah.
Whereas if you head off to a golf or something like that, then you kind of almost cut off half the staff or half the team from the Christmas function from that. So, it's really cool. Again, there's the burden that we have on that volunteer base, and we are aware of it, and I'm sure clubs are aware and managing that as well. But all up, you look at those numbers and you go, yeah, we've got 2% growth in playing membership. That was great. In actual fact, we've got, I think it was 20% growth this year now on Twilight. 18% was the number there. Our casual participation was up 35%. Really, really cool. Our first year membership was up another 8%. And the final number, which I'm taking a lot of comfort with too, is the number of Rangatahi, the number of our youth now engaging in our sport. So for a number of years, we've tracked around about 4,500 youth playing bowls.
Yeah.
So these are our secondary schools and intermediates who are having a bowls experience. 4,500. That's been about the most this year. 9,800. Which is 100% growth in this case, and it's down to a couple of things. I think is that we're changing our strategy a little bit and now looking to go into schools. So we're using those hockey fields and those tennis courts and the indoor halls with the indoor mats as well. So we instead of trying to, whilst ideally we want school kids to come into our clubs, we're actually taking bowls into the schools to give them that experience, and that's where a big part of this number's coming from. The other key factor, I think, and it's a shout out to I'll pick out Brady and Wellington and Erica down there in Canterbury, but also others around the country who are engaging in the space. And whilst those kids are not going to be members, today or tomorrow, they will have had that bowls experience through school.
It's exactly the same as your casual and Twilight, isn't it? Because they know what our game is.
Yep.
Which is a great start to getting someone to play it.
And they enjoy it. And we make a pitch in this space that we're at almost after the invisible youth. So those kids that are, I won't say socially awkward, but, are struggling or whatever it is and don't see rugby and basketball and football and cricket and all those netballs and all that sort of stuff as the path for them because it's too competitive or it's combative, whereas bowls is actually pretty relaxed, isn't it, Alex?
Yeah, well, it depends. Yeah. Depends who's playing, but I suppose you're right. It's the ones who would dread PE class, right? You go, PE today, and then they get presented with this sport where they could be competitive.
Exactly. And one shot can make all the difference in their mental health almost. They just play that one shot and it's brilliant. Whereas, with respect to, and I was brought up in the play rugby era as a school kid, your impact in a rugby game, I can't remember ever scoring a try at secondary school level.
Yes.
Because I was buried in the forward pack kind of thing. But you don't get that in bowls. You have those magic moments. And I think we've got such a cool sport for our and it's a hard description in some respects, but that invisible youth that we have around. So, 9,800, for that number to almost double in 1 year shows the potential we have here of just being a sport that our youth can, let's show it, let's demonstrate it.
Good. So, well, it sounds like that was a really good summary of the census, and I'm pleased it was good news, because it would have been disappointing if I'd led into that in it.
Yeah, look, and it's not Bowls New Zealand, and it's not every club in every centre, but we should take pride in what's happening nationally, right? Because we've got some clubs who are just doing some phenomenal things. We've got other clubs who are still just performing along and going okay. But to celebrate that national, what's happening national, I think is really important.
Yeah, for sure. Is there anything else in the census you want to talk about before we move on to the next talking point?
Boring enough. If you could have thrown in a graph, I think that might sort of highlight things. But I'll leave that for your technical know-how.
I'm hopeful, but not optimistic.
Okay,
we'll see. I'll give it a go. But let's talk about facilities now. And it seems every time I check social media, there's another club that is talking about a covered green going up. They seem to be popping up all over the country, Mark. Can you talk to us a bit about that? What's happening?
Yeah, I think this is again testament to the growth and where our sport's at the moment, is that we are seeing a lot of capital investment. You're not seeing it in a lot of other sports. As we retrench and cost of living costs are there, and councils are talking about rates increases but no spending. What's happening in our Bowls community is pretty cool.
Yeah.
So who do we welcome? We welcomed Frankton Junction down in Hamilton with a new roof. Tauranga South, I understand, is pretty close to...
Yeah, the roof is up there now.
The roof is up, okay. So that's two new ones in the last, 2 months, a month or two. And I'm hearing other areas now that are all talking about, we've got Woolston, Canterbury Bowls 2017, I think they're called, but they're out of the Woolston Workingmen's.
Yeah.
And I saw some designs there for a roof, which will be terrific for the Canterbury region.
Discussion of Manawatu, et cetera.
With Palmerston North Bowling Club. Really, really cool stuff, because people, within our communities, people do want to play in the winter. Not so much at 8 o'clock, 9 o'clock at night.
At the very least, you'd like to play when it's raining, right? If you've committed to your club championship or your centre championship and it's pouring down outside, that's quite deflating when you're playing outdoor bowls. But less so, I would imagine, if there's a roof to go under. Yeah,
and surprisingly, it rains in the summer. Certainly does in the North Island anyway. So even in the summer, being able to play under the roof when it is raining. I think what's happening too, though, is that the membership, and I'll pick on someone like Orewa Bowling Club, is that when it's sunny, beautifully sunny, not a cloud in the sky, but then the sun is burning down on you, people would rather play under the roof. So sides are up, the air's flowing through, but you're not getting sunburned. So therefore, from a health perspective, it's huge. So not only is the roof there in terms of rain and potentially cold as well, or wind, but it's there too, and even when it's sunny, as people are wanting to play under it.
Is there a number, Mark, if we think like we've got 26 regions and 465 bowling clubs, is there a number in mind, and we haven't discussed this before, that you'd have with what would be a nice number of covered facilities to have in the country, do you think?
Well, it's a good question. I think, probably 2 years ago I would have said, one per region would be great, wouldn't it? So when you've got your centre championships, et cetera, you can be, and it's raining, you can be going there. But what we're seeing now is that neighbouring clubs are going, actually, we want one of these roofs too, because we want our membership to be able to play at all hours, etc. And, if we reflect back on our Twilight, our business house leagues and our casual numbers, when you've got that Christmas function and it's raining, or it's rained all day or the day before and you can't get on that green, actually that covered facility with the artificial, it guarantees you those Christmas functions, it guarantees you the business house, etc. So I know in the North Harbour region, without spilling the beans too much, but we do have Orewa who are looking at a second covered green. Down the road, we've got Manly, who are promoted. I think it was on our Facebook about a month ago. Their designs for a covered green. facility. I know Browns Bay's been talk about it, and there's been talk about it in the Takapuna sort of area as well. So within that one region, we could potentially have 4 covered greens for the next 5 to 10 years. So no longer, I think it's no longer one. I think just clubs are seeing it.
Yeah.
And cost-wise, I don't know, it can vary anywhere between about 800 to about 1.5 if it's just that marquee style with the drop-down sides. If you're talking the whole, concrete
Slightly
block.
different conversation then, isn't it?
Yeah, if you're talking the Nine Eyes or the Dunedins or the Hastings, then you're talking the 2-3 million probably range, which are big numbers, but not insurmountable numbers.
Oh, I think it's something that we underrate about our sport. We threw the number 465 clubs, and more than half of those would own their facilities and land, etc. That's not an insignificant network, and if you think about the money that sits, or the capital that sits there for our sport, surely we rate sort of high. Golf would be bigger, I presume, because they've got those massive courses.
Yeah. But good statement, actually. I think we're the second. Yeah, we'd probably sit behind golf in terms of asset value or balance sheet value, if you want to be an accountant, almost. So there's a lot of money tied up in our communities and bowls clubs and land and in buildings as well. And it's nice to see that movement. And we won't talk about it too much, but that shift now to carpet greens. That's happening at a rapid rate of knots. And I boldly, I think 3 or 4 years ago, I boldly said that I reckon that 50% of our clubs will be carpet within the next 15 to 20 years. Well, I reckon that could end up being 80%. And certainly in the North Island, where, clubs are sitting down and they're going, we've just lost half the summer because of rain. If we had a carpet green, then actually we probably wouldn't have lost anything or very little of it.
It's largely climate related, isn't it? If you think about it, how hard it is actually to keep a natural green going in the conditions that we've had. We seem to have, I can think of 3 1 in 100 year weather events that we've had in the last 5.
Yep.
So how many more are we going to get?
Yeah, and I think that's the reality. Full all credit to our greenkeepers for what they're achieving and continue to achieve. But the reality is the decision that the club will ultimately make. Well, I think ultimately the club will make a decision to go with the carpet greens. And initially for those that are multi-green clubs, they'll go 1 and 1 carpet and 1 natural or 2 naturals with a carpet. But we are seeing now the little single green clubs going, you know what, for 300,000, which is a big number, we can have a carpet green, but importantly, we can play all through summer. There's no postponing pretty much our club events, and we can handle the business house and the corporates out there, and we can actually get out there in the winter too.
It doesn't mean that you don't have to look after the green, though, does it, Mark? That's a mistake you see occasionally, or maybe a misconception is that people think, well, if we get a carpet green, we get the carpet green and we can just leave it and it'll be fine. You do have to maintain the carpet greens.
Yeah, but it's a different type of maintaining, though. You need to vacuum it. You need to keep it clean. That's obvious. You need to protect it from moss, mold, algae type stuff. So that's important too, but it's not as intensive. It's there, and and if your maintenance is good, it will last longer. If your maintenance isn't very good, then you'll pay the price in a few years' time.
I suppose it's a reality too that as carpet greens get better, there will be a point at which, like, it's inevitable that a national championship which requires however many greens, at some stage, maybe in section play, there'll be carpet greens there.
Well, we're already doing it. We're already doing it for mixed pairs and for singles as well, because those numbers just continue to climb and climb, those that are turning up to our national events. So it's a reality. The other reality now is those carpet greens that have been going in the last few years are the equal, if not better than a number of natural greens around the country. And I continue to hear statements like, we played under the Orewa one when they played on the carpet in the national finals under the roof, and statements that's one of the best greens I've played on all year. Yeah,
I mean, the women's singles final, standard-wise, is one of the highest quality games I think we've ever broadcast, and it was under a cover on an artificial.
Yeah. So that's that. I think that's been the other change too. Is that 20 years ago you probably wouldn't have said that about carpet greens. You know, there were probably some pretty awfully laid ones or
most
dodgy
of them
ones.
Sand based as well, so you'd scratch your bowls.
Yeah, exactly. But now it's this carpet that's there, and it's happening. It's happening right through the North Island. South Island's a little bit different. I think probably the North Island the last 2 to 3 years has felt the brunt of some of those abnormal
Your climate, yeah.
But you know, it'll work its way through the country for sure.
Very interesting. Interesting to follow. It'll be interesting to see where we end up. But I suppose talking of cover greens and artificials, we can segue that, Mark, to some of the broadcasts. Shall we start with the words Sky Sport broadcast?
Yeah. Well, I'll throw it back at you now.
Okay.
What's happening in the world of broadcast, Alex Reid?
Yes. Well, we've been very busy, Mark.
Yes.
We've had a lot of stuff. So it doesn't seem like that long ago that we had our Twilight Bowls League, which ran for 6 weeks, 8 weeks, December, November-ish.
6 weeks, yep.
Last year.
Yeah.
And I feel like we've moved some way since then. It was very pleasing to have our big national events on Sky Sport, which I hope that viewers and listeners took advantage of watching. And we recently announced that we've locked in, how many is it, 50 days? Something ridiculous for the next 12 months on Sky Sport as well.
57 days over 14 months on Sky.
Like, I mean,
that's cool.
It's quite satisfying.
It's huge.
I know I sit here going, it's satisfying to have, but I mean,
if you would have said that to us 5 years ago, we would have paid a whole lot of money for that to make that happen. Now we sit here comfortably. We don't receive money and we don't pay money. It's largely cost neutral, with the exception that we have to obviously produce the stuff.
Yeah.
But we get to show our sport, and we get to show, I don't know, I like to say almost that diversity and inclusion, but that colour to our sport.
Yeah, exactly.
That a lot of non-bowlers still look at us and go, you know, the retirement village advert almost, which is, you know, old people in their whites playing bowls. If you watch any of our national events now, such a diverse range of people playing.
Yeah, and we make a point of broadcasting section play of the national events. You know, some people have got to be on a Sky Sport channel.
Yeah.
And section play, like we had a second-year bowler play a game of singles on Sky. That's fantastic to be able to offer. And just I
think that was the lady that talked to me. Was it from Canterbury? Or maybe I can't remember where I was. South Canterbury. Someone said that to me and said, I got stuck playing. I didn't want to do it. Got stuck playing on, in nationals on Sky Sport.
Sky Sport.
And I said, "Did you enjoy it?" She said, "Oh, not really." And a lot of people were watching. And I said, "Did you win?" She said, "Yeah, I won though." And she was, I can't remember, first year, second year, or something like that.
Yeah,
that's really, really cool for our sport, and it just builds on the storylines that we have within our game. Anyone can play. And you can literally rock up to a national tournament or even a club regional event and be playing a world champion.
Yeah, precisely. It's been satisfying to deliver. I think the other satisfying thing from my point of view is that, yes, our national events have been on Sky Sport, national television, but at the same time, we haven't priced people out of that. For this duration, we've had it on our YouTube channel as well. So the access has been there. There's been a broad access to people who want to watch it. Some find it. I find it easier to watch it on Sky TV, but if you don't have that, we still have had it available on our Bowls New Zealand YouTube channel. And
I think that's a really good statement or reminder for me, anyway, or to make for us, is that it's not exclusive to Sky. So you can still watch all of this product free view on YouTube, which is pretty cool on the part of Sky and us in terms of being able to make sure that it's accessible to everybody. But kudos and thanks to Sky Sport and Somerset Retirement Villages as well for supporting us on our broadcast journey over the last few years. It's a long way from, one camera, one commentator to where we're at now, which is, I would say broadcast, not streaming quality anymore.
Yeah, that's cool. I'll just quickly acknowledge before we move on to more broadcast chat. Just the commentary team that we have had in the last year. We've tried to make an effort to have a very broad range of commentators so that it's not the same. It's not tiring for the people who are doing it because, if you think it's 57 days of the same person. It's a lot. So we've tried to have a broad range, but everyone has gone above and beyond. We've had remote setups where there might be a technical problem and the commentators have made sure that they've been able to get back on. Perhaps not under, you're trying to explain things that are quite a high level on a phone you can't see, and they've gone above and beyond. So like Edwardses and Nobles and John Macbeth and Peter Thorne, Keith Setter, Simon Poppleton, etc. We've had this huge range of people who've assisted with the commentary, and I think it's really helped the broadcast.
Yeah, I think so. And let's credit to the groundwork laid by the likes with yourself, but with Kevin Hicklin as well over the years. Tamara, who was a key part of our broadcast team as well. So there's a lot of work gone into it, and still a lot more required as well. Because I think you want to segue now to the Tuesday Wednesday potentially show, but we've still got work to do in this space.
Yeah.
We're not. I would say we're not yet the BPL quality.
Yeah.
And I don't think that necessarily should be our goal right now. I think we should actually try and surpass that sort of level and try and create some, a TV product, entertainment that's actually, a step up. Certainly a step up to where we're at now. We're using today, we've bought a $15,000 camera. So, geez.
How was that to say, Mark?
Yeah. And the idea is that it's a roving camera. So we can capture those images that the old static, or permanent camera wasn't able to capture. And we need to keep challenging ourselves in this space. So part of that Sky deal is that we will, Tuesday, Wednesday nights, we've committed to, I think it's a 6:30 to 9 time slot, to putting on a show there. It won't be the one we did pre-Christmas. I think the pre-Christmas one, which was really about celebrating or showing the diversity in our game, that was great. And it was a good lead-in into Business House and Twilight Bowls as a social product.
Good timing too in the season for people who saw that. Yeah. I'd like to think there's a correlation, right? People go, oh, we watch the Twilight Bowls on TV and it's Christmas time. Yep. Maybe I could go down to a bowls club and have a go.
Or I can join up to that league in February, March, that Twilight Business House League, and 15,800 people took part in those leagues this year. So yes, there was, and it was the right product for that. It was also an opportunity for us, and we don't talk about it too much, but we needed to step up in the broadcast space, and I'd like to think that people saw quite a change from week 1 to week 6 of that event as well, because we're not perfect. And we made mistakes, and there's some stuff in the first week or two, audio comes to mind, which is not perfect. But we need to, like everybody, we need to actually stumble and to go forward. And that was a really good learning opportunity for us as a team, for you, for Colin and others, whereby we got to that week 6 and we felt, okay, this was a good product now. When we get to Tuesday, Wednesday this year, we need to, which will be, I think it's September, October, and then December again with Sky, we need to step up again. Mm-hmm. So we've got some thoughts around that. Our ideal is to this year we'll look to grab the best bowlers. So it's time to actually, if we can twist their arms, etc., is to get the best bowlers out there on the green and on TV on a Tuesday, Wednesday night. We just haven't quite settled on the format yet. We need to give that some thought. Whether we do go full noise BPL, which I think is franchise and all that sort of stuff, or whether, and I think that's ultimately where we'll probably end up, or whether we just continue just to try and refine their production. And figure out what works and doesn't work for us. So we've got some conversations. Watch this space come Tuesday, Wednesday night.
Yeah, exciting regardless of where we end up, right? Because we've committed that there will be something on the evenings, Tuesday, Wednesdays, 2 lots of this, whatever league it ends up being.
Yeah, and allow us that opportunity though, and the community's been very good with us, I think, to stumble. So we don't get it right all the time, and sometimes we make decisions and we go, oh geez, that wasn't what we wanted, or technology lets us down, or whatever it might be. So we will stumble again this year, but we will, every time though we lift the bar, and again I go back to where we were broadcast to where we are now. We've stumbled along the way for sure, but overall, we've got better and better and better.
Yeah, part of it is that we liked, and I think people appreciate this now because we talk about it often. The broadcast comes from within the Bowls New Zealand team. So we're not contracting out to someone saying, can you make a broadcast for us? It's something that we do ourselves, which allows us control, and it allows us that ability at the Twilight Bowls League, for example, after the first week to go, maybe we could change something here, and it's an immediate switch. Whereas when you lose a bit of control and you're contracting out to people, all you can do is give them a vision and pray that they go close to it. I think we're in a privileged position, but a neat position as us to be able to create our own broadcast. We do it ourselves.
Yeah, and yeah, absolutely. And we do good. We just need to strive for better or potentially even excellence with it as well. But if we're continuing to push forward, I think that's really cool. So, I look forward to those endeavours, and we've got some thoughts around that, and we welcome, Barlene a chat coming back to us as to what could and couldn't work as well. I'd like to think we've got a reasonable ear of the community. Let's see how this progresses. Cool. But haven't we come a long way, and long may it continue? Yeah,
just exciting, really. Okay, so broadcast, 50 whatever days.
57 over 14 months.
I'll have to stock up on some coffee, I think, Mark, but that's fine.
Well, that's not the only stuff we're doing too, right? So So 57 days doesn't include Intercentre, Interclub.
Yeah, correct.
A number of the other events that we do around the country. So it's 57, but I would probably say it's over 100 days of broadcast that we'll be doing in the next 12 to 14 months.
And some of the logic there is the difference between a broadcast product for the general public and bowlers and a broadcast product for bowlers. So Intercentre and Interclub is very much
for bowlers. Yeah, for sure.
Like I'll sit down and watch all of that.
Yeah.
I'm not sold that Joe Bloggs is going to get a lot out of an Interclub or Intercentre, but who knows? So you're right, it's a lot, but nice to be able to offer. And that YouTube channel is a place to go. So I think we're at 6,500 people have subscribed to our Bowls New Zealand YouTube channel. If you're tuning in on our YouTube channel and you haven't clicked the subscribe button, that's a thing to do.
Can we make people pay for their subscription, Alex?
Not yet.
Not yet.
There are options.
Never ever will they pay?
There are options for like member only things that we can add.
Okay.
Yep. That's where we'll leave that conversation.
Nice.
But please subscribe to our YouTube channel because it means you get a little notification on your phone when we go live, and we've seen lots of people utilise that.
Well, at some point in time, and it's getting very close actually, is that there's real commercial value to this for us, whether that's partnerships with sponsors and naming rights and advertising, etc. But we now have a whole lot of. We have platforms
we do,
whereby we can promote partners. So if there's anyone out there with some commercial dollars and they want to target a community like Bowls, then please, we're up for that conversation.
Fair enough. So BowlsHub is what we've got next on the list. BowlsHub Aotearoa, which we've now been using. Is it 3 seasons? 3 seasons of BowlsHub for national events?
Yeah, pretty much. Going good actually. We haven't. It's one of those. It always has been one of those softly approaches. So we started out just doing our national events, and now we have. I think there's about 14 centres out of the 27 that are utilising it in some shape or form, which is really cool. We have, I don't know how many people that are membership IDs now. I presume it's 5, 6, 7,000, something like that. 7
or 8,000, I think it was last time I checked.
Yeah, so a lot of people in the system now, which is good, which means we have a whole lot of data. We have a database of people. We can, send out information to people. So BowlsHub's going well. It's our approach is very much get it used at national events, get it used at centre events, and then we'll work our way down into the clubs and the bigger clubs and look at that functionality. I think the exciting thing for us, and we've kept it under lid or haven't really talked about it too much, is that we've started to build this grading mechanism to the side. So we now have, we were looking at something the other day, and I think there was, I saw a page and it had, Sheldon had played 110 games and Selena had played 95 and and all these players, all their games, and we were able to take every single game that someone played and said, who did you play? Were they better or worse relative? Did you win or lose? and build a ranking based on all those results. And it's quite impressive because when you've got that volume or all that data, which is, Alex, and your 50 odd games or 100 games, and who you played and who you played with, and et cetera, you're able to actually create from there a sense of, is Alex a good bowler?
Yeah.
Is he an A grader? Is he a C grader or an E grader? And if we build a point system around that as well, it's really cool. So the prototype's there now.
That's exciting.
Yeah, it is. It is. We've got some refining to do. There's still some bits and pieces. And shout out to Darren Morrow from Hobsonville Bowling Club for the big assist in this space. But that's really cool for our sport. And I've said it before and I'll say it again, is that there are people coming across to our sport from squash and from golf and from tennis and all that who are used to having this sort of rankings type process. Or handicap or whatever it might be. And it's time for our sport to have it as well.
Oh, totally. I think having a formula for the ranking, so as you said, if I'm a bowler that's rated lower and I beat you, I'd be given a higher weighting than vice versa. Makes a lot more sense in my head than having a set number of points to win an event or whatever. And you go, you're at the top because you've played 500 games or whatever, I think it makes a lot more sense to have this formula system, which is borrowing. What did you look at? Did you borrow off other sports?
We borrowed off squash. Thanks, squash. We borrowed their methodology for this one, which is reasonably similar to ours, albeit that bowls is quite unique in that we have pairs, triples and fours type games as well. So you have to, get the relative strengths of both sides when it comes to fours. No, it's really exciting. Again, we're not going out there and trumpeting this. We just want to keep working on it behind the scenes. And slowly you'll see us start to publish it. And it might be that we publish it once a month.
Yeah.
And then it becomes once a week. And then it becomes a ranking by centre. And then potentially it's a ranking by club. And good luck to all the clubs on the Friday night at the bar, Lena, because they'll be all arguing about, if I'm ranked number 4 in the club, why aren't I in the rep team this weekend, and so on and so on. But it's all
good conversation.
It is good. It is good. And there's a bit of passion in it. Because right now, for most clubs, you probably got a sense who the better bowlers are, but you don't really have there's no measure of it. Now, this won't be to everyone's liking. But it will be to probably 50% plus of our bowls community, and especially those people who are coming from other sports. They will buy into this, and it'll be quite a big part of who they are in the bowls community.
So if we just fast forward 10 years, which I think is a reasonable amount of time to have this, let's say a date in the future, which we're not going to name, the ranking system is working and it's all fine. Does it count every game that you play? What's your end goal here? Is it like when I play a game of singles at my club championships, does that count towards my ranking?
Yeah. Every game that you play, we'll put a finite period on it though. So it might be every game you played in the last 3 years. We don't want to.
It just rotates through.
It just keeps drops off the fourth year basically, and brings in the new year into it as you go through. But every game you play, every game that you decide you want to put a card in on, or you want counted in the space. So you might just we might have a practice roll up on a Thursday afternoon, and you decide not to put that card in mutually. Well, that's fine. But every competitive game, I think you want to do, and we've talked about it, I think, once before. I've certainly talked about it around a few clubs now, is that what will happen is that will remove the junior structure from our sport.
I was just going to say, it feels like a really good solution. I know we've spoken about it in previous podcasts, but the junior system is unique to New Zealand and it was brilliant for 40 years when we didn't have Business House and we didn't have Twilight Bowls. But it's just a little bit, it's not a perfect fit anymore, I don't think.
No,
it doesn't work as well as it could.
And what this means going forward is, if once the grading's up and going, is that, you'll be assigned a grade, and clubs may go, look, we're going to run a D and E grade tournament only for those people that are new or aren't proficient yet in the game of bowls. You made a very valid point about the whole Twilight is that there are 15,800 people now playing Twilight Business House leagues. So they're playing 6 to 8 times a summer. And if they do that for 5 or 10 years, when they come across into our sport as a full playing member, they'll be a first-year bowler.
Yeah.
And they could well be up against someone who's never played bowls before. That's not not a level playing field.
The junior system doesn't quite work there. It's still very effective, and it's great to have those groups. But if we can get to a space where there's a grading system, that feels like something that fits our game a bit better. That's really exciting, Mark. That's good.
Oh, I think it is, and it's just it's that we talked about numbers, we talked about broadcast, this BowlsHub, this grading thing. We're moving. Everything's feels like it's moving in the right direction. Twilight Bowls moving in the right direction. So our sports, we're innovating, which is really important for sport and a community. And we're seeing the outcomes or seeing the benefits already in terms of numbers.
Brilliant. Well,
thanks.
I've got a list in front of me, and I'm up to the anything else. There's an anything else part. Was there anything else, Mark, before we sign off after 53 minutes and 34 seconds of talking?
Not really. I mean, we're an open door, though, so feel free to push your feedback or send feedback back in. Facebook's nice.
Yeah.
Although Facebook can get a bit, sometimes get a little bit toxic with it. So I invite people to... if you see me, you've seen the Bowls New Zealand team, you're in the board around the traps, whether it's playing bowls or come along to our centre visits and regional visits and club visits and ask. We've got Rob Davis out and about on the North Island visiting clubs. Kevin Smith's doing the same thing in the South Island. Rob and Kevin are there to listen, to learn what's happening in your club and to support your club with whatever initiatives or whatever things you're looking to do. So, if some of these conversations strike your buttons as a club, and you go, we've been putting off this carpet green conversation for a while, contact Rob Davis, or in that specific case, Steve Beale, and they will assist you. If you're looking at doing a Twilight League, then contact Rob or Kevin in the South Island, and they'll be able to assist you. If you're looking at, God forbid, constitutions, which you'll have to anyway. I shouldn't say God forbid.
When you're looking at constitutions.
When you're looking at constitution, then there's the resource there to help you out as well. And that's the comfort that you should take from Bowls New Zealand, I guess, and from your centres as well, is that we're here to support. We're not here to dictate. We're here to support you with whatever initiatives you want to tackle. Our advice is don't try and tackle everything at once. Pick out that one big project, that one big difference that maybe makes a difference for your club and your community, and tackle that, get it done, and move on to the next one.
Yeah, we have also made a point after our national events. We always send out a survey, which we've done for the last 4 years, and have quite a nice overview of the satisfaction, I suppose, that our members have in the events that they've played, which has always been good. And occasionally we'll ask a pointed question, isn't the word I'm looking for, but we'll ask a question that's relevant to the event. Don't think that doesn't weigh into the decision making. Like we do,
it does.
We do look at the responses that come in through those surveys.
Yeah, many times, and I think that's the one we kind of, when it comes to national events and that, we use those surveys. I mean, it's hard to just take a Facebook comment and saying that's the general view, which is why we go out there and survey and we ask questions about carpets versus natural greens. I think from the nationals this summer, we probably had about 5 or 6, I think, quite significant questions, other questions. We need to send that. We need to promote, and you've promised that, haven't you?
Yes.
Is to create a nice little graphic that shows the answer to those questions.
Yeah, a summary from all of the surveys, just to have an understanding.
That's singles, pairs, fours, mixed pairs, inter-centre, inter-club, and we'll probably do a Bowls 3-5 one as well.
Yeah.
And once we're through this weekend, the Bowls 3-5, then we'll flick out or produce that graphic. And it very much influences our thinkings, as do the comments that people write.
They're very helpful on those surveys.
Absolutely, because there's often a consistent theme to the conversation, and so we do look at those comments for sure. Fair to say that if it's just an isolated comment, then we sort of push it to the side a bit. But where there's a theme coming through, absolutely, because at the end of the day, because we acknowledge that we stumble, because we acknowledge that as a national body that we do make mistakes, it's easy then to take those comments and action them. It's when we get too high on the ground on this sort of stuff and go, oh, we're perfect and everyone's wrong, that you fall over. So
we're not good.
And we're not good. So we know that we make mistakes. And I can think of a couple of doozies over the years that we've gone, oh, geez, wish I hadn't have done that. But we've listened to the feedback and changed those things. And I think that's just, well, to be honest, that makes life a lot easier.
Good.
As well.
Well, that's a nice note to finish on, Mark. So thank you for joining me for this edition of whatever the podcast is called, Beyond the Bias. I think it's the one we settled on all those months and months ago. It's been a pleasure talking to you as CEO of Bowls New Zealand. Will we do another one? Can we segue into another one at some point?
Well, I think you need to do a couple more. I think I'm now talking to you as your boss, as your manager, right?
Yes.
You definitely need to do a couple more. I'd invite you to do one in the high performance space.
Yeah.
I think that'd be really cool because it's a bit of a quiet, little bit of a lull now.
Yeah.
But there are still things happening in that high performance space, which is good. And I'd like you to have a chat to Rob Davis and Kevin Smith, probably combined. And because they're the faces, or they are out and about within communities as well, and there's plenty of cool stories that they can share of what's happening out there in the clubland. So if I was to single out a couple of things, I think those would be good.
Keep your eyes peeled, and with a bit of luck, as we're trying to progress this technology and get value for money out of our $15,000 Sony camera, the podcast will now also be broadcast on video as well. So I look forward to that. But thank you for your time, and I suppose we'll be back next time with whoever it is I decide to interview on the podcast.
Excellent. Thanks, Alex.